coming to the end for many of you.
At the end of last term, David Bates was appointed as a deputy head of Kingswood School in charge of pupils and discipline.
But that's not true. We don't really like to let go. We're always glad to see you.
But the appointment was temporary. The local education authority have now advertised the job nationally. Under the eyes of pupils and colleagues alike, David Bates becomes once again a candidate.
Life would, of course, be very difficult for me if I don't get this job. So I'm not really looking forward to it, I must admit. If I don't get the job, then it would certainly, in my opinion, be the end of my career here. I mean, I want to be a deputy head. I'm fairly ambitious. I'd hope to get this one. I would then be forced to attempt to move at the earliest opportunity.
In a contracting profession, any vacancy will attract candidates of quality in quantity.
Oh, there's another lady. Good. And a first. Very, very strong one, right?
I'm not going to concentrate on one section of it or worry about one section of the candidates that will come. I think I'll have to fight county very hard to convince them that I deserve the job. I feel I will get the backing of the head and the governors quite strongly, at least I hope so, based on my record here. Therefore, I will have to convince county. Now, they obviously will come, well, obviously, I'm assuming what they will do, but I would imagine that they would come looking very strongly at an external candidate, because that is very often policy for senior posts, looking towards appointing a woman, because we already have 2 male deputies. Now, I accept that. Those are just two parts that I'm going to have to take on, head on, really. And so I'm just not going to get involved with worrying over much about any of the candidates. I consider all of them to be dangerous in the nicest possible way. And whatever happens, I've got to live with it. Whether I have to live with it here or elsewhere is my problem.
From the external candidates, 6 are shortlisted and invited to Kingswood. Once here, they'll spend 2 days in interviews and discussions. Before they leave, a decision must be made. Fred Shepherd, a Cambridge graduate, married with 2 young children, and at 33 the head of modern languages at an Enfield comprehensive. Maureen Pinner, married but without children, is a home economics teacher and head of lower school in a nearby comprehensive. On the left, Chris Griffin, a graduate from Leicester University and head of English at a comprehensive in Solihull. On the right, Rod Wilson, a history teacher and head of lower school at the soon-to-be-closing local comprehensive, Samuel Lloyd. Also from Samuel Lloyd, their head of sixth form and acting deputy, is Mike Preston. If the local authority is keen to appoint a woman, Margaret Beardsley is a strong candidate. Married with grown-up children, she has a degree from Nottingham University and is the head of English at a Cambridgeshire comprehensive.
Mrs. Beardsley. Oh, yes. Would you like to come this way, Mrs. Yes.
Oh. Hello, Miss Beardsley.
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Bates. It's no problem. Have a seat.
David Bates has applied and been shortlisted for deputy headships elsewhere.
I'm used to this now. Can I introduce to Miss Pinner?
How do you do?
He must recognise the uneasy feelings towards an internal candidate.
How are you? Mr. Griffin. Hello. And Mr. Wilson.
Oh, I did it. That's cool. But I am cheating, actually. I do know 2 or 3 of them. It's a little easier than it sounds.
The morning is spent being shown round the school by volunteers from the sixth form. The selection process will start after lunch. The headmaster, Brian Tyler, has suggested that the candidates be interviewed by a panel of Kingswood staff under the chairmanship of history teacher Colin Shepherd.
And so that's Mrs. Beardsley, Mr. Wilson and Mr. Griffin are all with you, OK?
OK,
right,
OK.
So
right,
if you can go with Sue.
Yeah, we're going...
The staff panel is a group of more or less interested teachers who have volunteered to be involved in the selection process.
Well, no, I mean, the field from which Dave was chosen was a very narrow one, and I think it is an important opportunity now to get someone into the school from outside. And that's an opportunity that we shouldn't miss, at least considering, anyway.
Mm-hmm. I think the first thing that you have to do is to get the aims of
This interview gives the candidates a chance to air their views and the Kingswood teachers a chance to question their potential deputies from the shop floor.
After being involved in that, actually in almost a self-questioning process.
I wondered what your views were on union membership in schools and union action in schools.
I always think, you know, teaching and unions, it's a very uneasy sort of marriage because the children are very often caught in the middle, and I think it depends where your loyalties lie, where you feel that your responsibilities lie, and the management structure of any school has got to bear in mind what is best for the children.
David Bates can afford to relax. It was thought neither relevant nor helpful for him to be interviewed by his own colleagues.
So we'll start off with Margaret Beardsley, shall we? That group, Beardsley, Wilson.
Yeah, so that was my first group, your second group.
Mm. Right, what about Margaret then? Keith?
Why me first? I don't know. Put it. Wasn't over impressed. She obviously gives a large commitment to her job at the moment, time-wise and energy-wise, and does seem to feel, it seemed to me, that everybody should be doing the same and would be judging everybody on that. And it's not a point of view that I'm particularly hold with.
But on the other hand, surely we want someone who is going to lead by example rather than
That's right.
rather than the other way around. I certainly would rather have somebody who is totally committed than the other extreme, personally.
What about Rod? Rod Wilson, Keith?
Well, Rod, I thought, took a much more sensible attitude to that question.
Don't you think that he was rather lacking the drive and the leadership that Margaret might possibly have?
Yes, I thought that, very much so.
Yeah.
What about moving to Chris, the third one in the group? I mean, how does he bear in relation to the other two?
I do think he came across as well. Personally,
I thought he came over very well. He had a sensible attitude to unions, and he certainly had a sensible attitude to where the balance should be between commitment to school and commitment to home life.
Right. Is Fred then, Fred Shepherd? I mean, just as a person, he was the one that I liked most out of the whole six. I must say that.
Well, I'll counteract that and say that the one I probably put fairly near the bottom of the list.
You didn't feel he was our sort of people then?
No, I didn't feel he was my sort of person. I feel that he's more in line with Colin's. And it might be a bit of northern paranoia, but I think that a lot of Colin's opinions about Rod are related to Rod's accent, rather than to anything that Rod's like. I think the way that people say things is important, and there's no point denying that.
What about Mike?
I wasn't too keen the way he blocked out and took over as well.
I must say that with Mike, I don't know if he's going to rub staff up the wrong way, quite honestly, as a deputy head. He'd rub me up the wrong way within the first 5 minutes.
Well, that's not difficult, is it?
If we move on to Maureen for a moment, I mean, is there a consensus that Maureen very nice, but not deputy head? Yeah. So that's agreed then, right? Did we almost come round to an agreement that Fred, not really deputy head? Are we agreed on that? Can we cross him off? Does anybody object?
No.
Okay. Well,
That's scrub him.
that's right.
So that's two.
I mean, who thinks there is somebody there that was so impressed by their good points that they would, that would be their recommendation for deputy head? I mean, who would yours be, Sarah?
well, I felt Margaret Beardsley came over very well. I think that she's obviously very much. She gives the impression of being very much in control of the things that she does. I suspect that she would make a very forceful addition to a team of teachers at this particular school.
Pete?
I liked her. I thought she was okay. I found her quite a sympathetic character. sensible, just very on the ball. And the discussion on pastoral work, she knew exactly what they were talking about, and besides. You know.
I must say I agree with nearly everything that Sarah said actually. So I mean, the consensus is that she should definitely be one of the ones shortlisted anyway. Yes. Okay.
Very, very strong.
And she seems to be a very strong candidate at the moment for the person that perhaps most of us would go for. But let's move on.
Okay.
Now,
there's a seventh candidate, isn't there?
yes, Dave, in relation to all of these.
I feel particularly that we need somebody new in. I feel it very strongly indeed. I think Dave does his job very competently as it stands at the moment. I think if he's appointed deputy head, he'll continue to do that job competently. I don't think he's going to bring in anything new. I think we do need it. I feel also it's very important that we get somebody who's got a lot to give in educational terms, and I'm not sure that Dave has. Not new. Yeah, I think he is very much a lightweight for this job.
Would you put him on your shortlist?
I wouldn't put him on shortlist.
You wouldn't?
No.
Sue?
And I would go for somebody with a bit of new blood.
Yeah. Sarah?
It's very difficult. In the same way that I said about Rod, and I have worked closely with Dave for a long time. I have tremendous confidence in the work that he does. I have found him to be supportive, to be helpful. I believe that he actually does have more ideas to offer than perhaps we have seen. I think that he would actually do an extraordinarily good job. I'm also conscious, though, of the fact that I personally feel that we ought to have a woman in a senior position within the school.
Yeah.
But I would certainly shortlist Dave.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Keith?
Well, I don't wish to compare Dave in terms of the others.
Okay.
I'd like to put in a recommendation that we go for Margaret Beardsley.
I would say Margaret as well. The rest of us are agreed on a strong recommendation that we think Margaret is the best candidate.
Yeah.
Yes.
In many ways, I think that's probably all we need to say.
Well, I mean, we've definitely, I think, got the negative power, yes. It'll be very difficult, I think, for Brian to justify afterwards an appointment of somebody who we had unanimously decided we did not want.
So, I mean, I need to be clear what we actually want, and we want Margaret Beardsley anyway, don't we?
Very
Yes,
definitely.
very
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
And we don't want the other two. Very
And we don't
definitely.
want Shepherd and
Pinner.
Pinner, and obviously Dave will be in the final four, without any doubt. So that the other two is a neutral matter, is it? As far as you're concerned?
Why do you say obviously Dave will be in the final?
Oh well, because as far as I'm concerned, Dave will be in the final four. Let's put it like that.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
To be fair, I think he wouldn't have automatically appeared in our final four.
No.
In fact, I don't think he would have been there.
Had he been an outside candidate, he definitely wouldn't have done that.
No, I don't think that's not an acceptable statement, Matt, with respect. I'll tell you, I'll say to you as a group what my attitude about this is. I approve of the disciplinary structure of the school. I think it works okay. Approve for the bullies and the eating. By and large, the kids behave themselves and they don't break the place up and all that. That is administered, was administered by Mike and Dave, largely. Dave is now doing it, and I would not wish the character of the nature of the relationships between the staff and kids, the way we deal with them, to change. Therefore, I would regard Dave as the sort of school norm in terms of dealing with the kids in that job. Therefore, to get the job, you've got to be better, you've got to appear to us to be better at doing it our way than Dave is.
The staff panel is one of several sources of advice that should influence the final decision. Their support for an external candidate, however, is unexpected.
I would say, I would bet, if Bert would give me any odds, I would say that either Margaret Beardsley or David Bates will get the job tomorrow.
And that's the purpose of what we've been through.
That's right, yes. Dave Bates, incidentally, has broken the first law of politics and may be punished for it. He should have been here. He should always be present.
Yeah.
You know, that's where he's made his mistake.
Was that a voluntary? I mean, he just didn't want to do it?
It may be Machiavellianism by Colin Shepherd, actually. He may have been outmanoeuvred, or I even may have been outmanoeuvred, because, of course, at one time he was asked to come and said he would, and then Colin Shepherd came to me and said he thought in the circumstances it would be better if Dave didn't, because it would put him in an impossible position. Now, Dave Shepherd is a shrewd political analyst. He's also determined to get an outsider in at all costs. And who knows? I'm just a simple schoolmaster, you see. I mean, no, really. I wouldn't think that deeply, but he might.
In the evening, the rest of Kingswood staff have an opportunity to meet the candidates in more informal surroundings.
Yes, and once you start to sort of make this split by paying someone to do one.
But it's a brief relaxation. Tomorrow, the selection process will continue.
Yeah. Well, yesterday, I think, was very gruelling.
Yeah.
It was quite a difficult day, but I think today will be more harrowing.
Yeah.
You know, the formal interviews.
What are your reactions to the place, having spent a day here?
Oh, I like it. Yeah, I do like it. It's very different from what I'm used to. Very different kind of school, different atmosphere altogether. But I think it's one that I could be happy in and work
So,
well
I mean,
in.
are you wanting it more now than you were, or what?
Oh, yes. Yes. I would be disappointed if I don't get this one, I think.
The second morning, and a series of short interviews. The candidates will individually meet the present deputies, the headmaster, and 2 representatives from the local education authority. Over lunch, Brian Tyler will meet the local authority representatives to make a final shortlist for the final interviews.
Yeah, very gruelling, I must say. Spending that many more times.
Well, I think from our observations, we feel that 2 candidates perhaps are weaker than the other 5.
Yes.
And we think perhaps 2 are stronger than the other 7, or the other 5. So the weaker ones are Mrs. Pinner and Mr. Griffin, the chap from Solihull. Now, I don't know whether you want us to give you our views on the other candidates at this stage, but I think we may possibly have a slight difference of view from you.
Really? Perhaps we better confront it then.
Yeah. Well, we don't think that David Bates is as strong as some of the other candidates. And we do wonder, really, whether or not it would be in his interests and in the school's interests for him perhaps to get a deputy headship somewhere else.
Because your other 2 deputies are both long-serving members of the school too. I mean, we're coming to the argument of new blood or knowing the devil you know.
Right.
So we didn't think, though, he came across quite as strongly as we might have thought he would have done. So certainly put him in for the afternoon, and he's obviously a strong candidate, but not quite as strong as I think perhaps school backing would put him, I don't know. But because some of the others are very strong, I think.
Who emerges as your
Well, the one that I certainly preferred was Mr. Shepherd.
Shepherd and Mrs. Shepherd.
I thought Shepherd had a very good intellect. He obviously thought very carefully about the whole range of educational issues. And I thought that he could make a very positive contribution to thinking within the school. And Mrs. Beardsley we liked for different reasons. We think she had plenty of personality, plenty of go.
She's certainly one of the strongest I've seen for
Really?
a long time.
Really?
It's really a question, are we seeing 3 or 5 this afternoon, or 7?
Well, we couldn't possibly go through 7.
No, I mean, it would be difficult.
Do sit down, chaps.
Before the decision is made, Brian Tyler asks his present deputies, Mike Tuffin and Colin Tewton, if they agree to a final shortlist of 3.
I think you said Dave, Mr. Shepherd and Mrs. Beardsley.
Yeah.
I would add Mrs. Pinner to that and make up your 4, and I would then be quite happy.
Right.
Well, that's 2 men, 2 ladies.
What's your view, Mike?
Yes, that's what
And
I
you'd be happy with that?
Yeah.
So, in fact, the point at issue is really has become whether or not we include Mrs. Pinner, isn't it, in this afternoon?
No, I'd be quite
You
happy
have no
with
strong
that.
feelings?
We only saw her for 25 minutes, so we may not have...
Very well.
You've seen her for longer.
Very well.
I think we should give
A shortlist of 4, an amalgam of preferred candidates.
Those 4.
For Chris Griffin, Rod Wilson and Mike Preston, the ordeal is over. As expected, David Bates and Margaret Beardsley are shortlisted. The other two, though rejected by the staff panel, were preferred in turn by the authority and the deputies, Fred Shepherd and Maureen Pinner.
I've enjoyed this morning meeting the other deputies. I know the other deputies, but not really very well. But it's been interesting to hear their sort of job and probably whoever gets the job, how they would fit in. And I've liked... It was interesting spending more time with Brian Tyler this morning, which we hadn't spent much time with him yesterday. So, as far as how it goes for me, I'm not sure. Hopefully well, but...
Are you still in there fighting for it?
Oh, yes, definitely. Yes, I still feel that this, is a job that I would like to have, certainly.
Yeah, I'd like the job. I don't particularly... I think, honestly, I'd like to come and work in this school. I think I'd probably like to come and work in this school, whatever the job was. And because I have got a good impression of the school, I feel the staff is, from what I've seen so far, it's a caring, committed staff. I think there'll be good arguments on the staff. It would be a place where it would make you think hard about your own work. And in that sense, yeah, I'd like to come, And I think I'll be probably disappointed if I don't get... I'd be disappointed if I don't get the job. That's nothing to do with whether I consider now, personally, that I will get it or be offered it. That's something separate, which I'm not going to say. But, I'd like the job, yeah.
Well, welcome, Fred.
The final interviews.
Thank you.
The candidates must now face searching questions on their experience, attitudes, aims and ambitions from a panel of careful judges. The headmaster, 2 of the school governors, and, in an advisory capacity, the 2 representatives of the local education authority. During this final stage, the other candidates must simply wait their turn, decided by lot, in a nearby room.
Yeah, and the heavy breathing bit and so.
I could have an irate parent come up in the middle of the afternoon, actually, if you had all parents to talk to.
That's right, to see if we could deal with them.
Very irate parents. That could be exciting.
A lot of parents would say that one criteria of a good school is good examination results. What would be your reaction to that?
I think that is one element, and I think that if a school doesn't strive to get good examination results, it's failing that the pupils that come to the school in order to get good examination results. In a comprehensive school, however, that is only a part, for the very fact that the examination structure at 16 plus, for example, as presently set up, perhaps is intended only to examine whatever the percentage is, 60% or whatever, of the pupils at the school.
Yeah, that's the problem, particularly for a job like this that is very pastoral, isn't it? That you never actually... You're interviewing very much blind, don't you?
Yeah.
Because you never really you can't test that sort of thing at all.
No. You see, when it's for a particular subject, for my subject, if I was being interviewed for English, I would know exactly where I was going and what the kind of questions that are likely to come up and so on. But this sort of thing, they can ask you absolutely anything.
Afraid so.
Yes.
Yes, I've had experience of contacting parents in my role as a year head. It's part of my daily duties. There isn't usually a day when I haven't got to contact, either see a parent or ring a parent up. I also work, my PTA work brings me in contact with, I think, quite a small number of parents on our staff, but, not our staff, of the parent population. And so that's the work and experience that I've done in contacting with parents.
Like the questions yesterday from the staff, Zoink.
Overall, I'm quite sad I missed that now, actually. I wasn't at the time, I'm quite sad I missed it.
Do you think it would have been the same, though, if you were taking part?
No,
I think because you know them
it wouldn't really have worked, I don't suppose.
No, I don't think so. You probably wouldn't have felt the same way as...
No, I wouldn't. As I said, I wouldn't. It depends how I would have reacted to it, which could have been a bit dangerous, really, from my point of view, I suppose. I don't know.
I think that brings us to the end of the interview, and all I can do is wish you luck.
Thank you very much for listening.
Very long.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Nice to see you. Bye-bye. Thanks very much. Thank you. I'm sorry you're last.
That's fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm quite used to it.
That's 35 minutes, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mrs. Pinner, will you?
Thank you.
Come and join us, please. Well, welcome to the formal, oblique, informal interview for the third deputy head, Mrs. Pinner.
Finished.
Finished.
It's fine.
It's okay.
Yeah, you'll do well, you know. Don't worry about it at all. You know,
Deputy head, Mrs. Pinner.
you know, what's the word? Pertinent questions. You know, they're fairly probing, fairly formal but friendly. So seems fair. Seems fair. You know, if you're okay, we should do well. I'd have thought, and then you'll have to decide.
Yeah, good.
But it's worrying. It's all right for me now.
Yes, you're okay, aren't you? Yes, I've got to wait until the bitter end.
Interview nerves can completely drain the brain.
Sorry.
Sorry, so not an
I'm
easy
having
question,
no,
just
I'm
off the
having
top
a-
of your head, is it?
Take your time.
Sorry, can I start again?
Yes.
Yes, yeah. I think to prepare the children, as I say, for life, I think this is the important thing, the most important thing, that they should know and accept the suitable social standards and the requirements of them.
Do you want to come back
Can
to
I
that
come
one
back?
later?
Yes, please.
Okay,
Can
then
I?
we'll come back
Yes.
to that. Right, one last question for me with an area which I know you're much more familiar.
Did you find that you had the opportunity to give a good account of yourself, do you think?
I think so, yeah.
Mm. The question bit is always difficult, isn't it, when they're saying, have you got any questions, you know?
I did forget a question. Asked me this question. And I thought, oh yes, I know how to answer that, right. So I started off and got the first part of my answer out, and I forgot the question.
Yeah.
And I had to ask him again, sorry, what was the question? Oh, yes, right. And so if that wasn't obvious as something in which, you know, oh, this fella's learned that, hasn't he? Isn't what he really thinks.
One thing that did worry me a little bit, I saw that you were in charge, had responsibility for girls' career teaching.
That was my title, but the lessons were, in fact, of boys and girls. The only time it was divided into boys and girls was if we had somebody in to give them a talk specifically to the girls. But no, the lessons were certainly mixed together.
Would it be impolite of me to go leave you and go down to the staff rooms just because I want to...
Go on, I know. Sorry, I'll just say to you, you wander about.
And I know you don't like too much, so...
No, go on.
I'll be back.
Yeah. I was a parent wondering if they could come and see me about 4:30. So no, I'd rather not today.
Yes.
Well, thank you very, very much indeed for coming along, Mrs. Pinner. And thank you for the rest. I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
Come in, Maureen, sit down. Do you want me to? You kept him going then? You did very well.
Did I really?
Oh, yes,
Did,
you know, a long
yes,
time,
yeah.
we thought you.
Time flies quite clearly, so they say.
You said, yes.
Oh dear.
David. Thank you. Hello.
Hello. David, good afternoon to you. Excuse me if I pass.
Certainly.
I think you know all the panels, so we'll...
Yes, we are, obviously.
I think we should ask you a basic question first, David. You are still seriously interested in the position of third deputy head?
Oh, I'm very seriously interested. Yes.
Mr. Wilson, sir. I'd like to kick the ball,
Yes,
guys.
thank you, Chairman. Well, I'll start off with a question perhaps which is in some ways easier for you than for the other candidates, David. I've put this to all the candidates. I'd like to know why you applied for this particular post, and it may not be quite as obvious as we're all assuming, and why you feel that you're now ready to take on the role of the deputy head.
As you know from our conversation this morning, looking at my past record here, I've already been deputy head in acting capacity on two occasions, and really it's a taste for power to some extent. I've done the job twice. I very much enjoyed it. I enjoy the responsibility and the challenge, and it's at this time it's very much what I want to do.
Place of power is an unusual term to use.
I'm sorry, I don't want to find you.
I don't know whether you want to elaborate at all, or...
No.
Well, the basics of maths and English, and a very strong science input, languages, some form of moral and sex education would be my basic core.
If you don't put an art or design topic within the Common Core, isn't there a danger that for the last 2 years of a child's life that they may have a whole area of experience which they're not coming into contact with?
I do. I mean, it was something I missed out. I would include that in my Common Core.
You see, you're adding to your Common Core, and actually you're getting to a situation now where we've perhaps covered 5 or 6 areas. And at the beginning you said you felt there ought to be as wide a choice as possible for youngsters. Now perhaps we've extended our core to 6 subjects. We're actually beginning to limit the range of option, aren't we, at the end?
I'm going for a walk. Bye-bye.
Personally, I mean, I would look at the administration area of deputy head work as a further movement. I've done a fair bit of that already, but I think that schools have got to look towards the community much more, and I would want to get involved in the community and in the community within school. We have a terrifying unemployment problem. We can't just close our doors.
Fine. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Let us confront, Dave, what seems to me to be a major problem in terms of your candidature. And let me put this to you. Somebody might say, well, Dave Bates is a very good chap and he's had an excellent record at Kingswood, and we all know what he can do, and it's fine, and he's contributed a hell of a lot. But he's been there a long time, and so have all the others, and it's about time there's a bit of fresh blood in at the top, you know, something new, a change. How would you, if somebody put that to you, how would you defend yourself?
Forgive me for going over again. I would say that fresh blood, that the blood we already have isn't dead, and that I'm not going to stagnate. Just because I've been here a long time doesn't mean that I've settled for what I have, and that I'm set in my ways and I'm going to put up with that. I mean, that belies that there'll be no innovation from me and no new ideas and no contribution, which I reject, you know, totally.
Anything you'd like to ask the panel, David?
No, I don't think so. I think
Sickened of it.
No, not at all.
Well, David, like the rest, I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much for coming along.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, there you are. All right.
Have you come straight back in?
Yeah. Just what I want.
Long time, Dave.
As the last candidate, Margaret Beardsley has had to wait nearly 2 hours to be interviewed.
A long way. Good afternoon to you. Welcome. I think you've met the panel. Would you like to go through? Yes. Welcome to Kingswood, anyway.
Thank you.
One direct question which I've asked the rest of the candidates, and it is this: are you seriously interested in the job of the 3rd deputy head?
Oh, yes.
That's fine. Thank you very much.
I mean, that's me. I said about the core curriculum. As soon as you said core curriculum, it frightened me. And I jumped in. I jumped in, answered almost before I'd thought to it. And what I said was stupid. I still think it's a very strange situation.
I mean, can I ask you how much work you did on it?
What, on the
interview?
No. That's not my style. I wouldn't really know what to check it.
If Mr. Tyler asked you on your first day here to write down what you consider to be the 3 main objectives of the school, what 3 areas would you identify? And I realise that's something you would normally give quite a bit of thought to, but just your sort of immediate reaction.
Do you mean objectives in behavioural terms?
In any terms, in terms of the aims and objectives of the school, what would you, what 3 things do you feel an education institution, a school, ought to be aiming to achieve?
It sounds to me like the aims of education sort of idea.
Maybe, yes, that's what we're after.
Well, I think, if I can quote, if I can remember it, from the Schools Council working paper on the curriculum, when they were talking about aims of education. And they listed the obvious ones of knowledge and attitudes and so on and so forth. And they said, but most importantly, and I think this is where I agree in this respect, that we should be encouraging a sense of self-respect, the ability to live as independent, self-motivated adults, and the capacity to function as a contributing member of a cooperative group. And if you look at those 3 areas, you know, the self-respect, the independence, and the contributing factor, I think you've covered virtually the whole gamut of activities, of human activities.
I mean, they know that I can be the head of the pastoral service and so on. That's a known factor. I'm never going to do it.
Yeah.
But you know, a deputy head ought to offer more than that. And although I feel I can and do, I didn't convince him of that. I'm sure I didn't. So, who knows? Have you been around there? Have you seen the perimeters of this wonderful place?
When Alan Wilkinson asked you for your 3 aims, you said, I think, sense of self-respect, quoting from something Schools Council working about, sense of self-respect, self-motivated adults and able to cooperate in an independent group. Now, actually, if you think about that, is that right? Have I quoted you correctly?
Well, contributing, yes.
If you think about that at all, that could easily describe a member of an underworld gang or a terrorist organisation, couldn't it? You know, indeed, you could be wicked and have all these 3 characteristics.
Indeed, you could.
Yes.
One would expect, one would expect that the values that teachers put across are the positive values that are accepted by society to a certain extent.
So in fact, what we're saying is we're acting as a kind of reference or normative group for the ordinary values of society.
Yes.
Thank you.
We get virtually no vandalism. You know, we shouldn't say that without crossing my fingers, but we don't. We get rid of vandalism.
The interviews are over. The candidates must now wait for a decision to be made.
How long was I in, for crying out loud?
Don't know what time did you go in?
I don't know.
I can't remember because
That's right, I came away before you went in.
I think you win though. That's by a long way.
Do you want to try and eliminate 1 or 2 immediately without any discussion?
Well, if it works out like that.
Yeah, well, it may not. I mean, I certainly would be reluctant to see Mr. Shepherd eliminated at this stage.
Who wouldn't you be reluctant to see eliminated?
I would be happy to see Mrs. Pinner eliminated. She would be the only one I'd suggest could be eliminated immediately, in fact.
I would agree. Mrs. Pinner, not. And I'm dubious about the benefit to the school of David Bates. I think it is a school with a good atmosphere and this is achieving well. But I think that this is an opportunity to bring in new blood from outside. And as there are some strong candidates available, I think we should give definite consideration to Mr. Shepherd or Mrs. Beardsley.
It seemed to me that Mr. Shepherd was his manner was somewhat intellectual, I felt, rather than practical. I tried to envisage these people actually in the place doing the job. I would put him, at the moment, myself, 3rd of the 4, unless Alan and Alistair have got other considerations to put forward about that.
Well, I certainly think that he was the most outstanding of the candidates in an intellectual sense. He's got a very good mind. I thought he was a very high-quality candidate, and he would be certainly somebody I'd like to see as a deputy head in one of our schools if he chose to apply for another one.
Which I could well understand. And just to take it with whatever I get, I suppose. If that was what I asked about, what right is, that's what happened. That's what
The school day is over. The pupils and all but a few staff have gone home. Only the candidates remain as the deliberations continue.
Oh, you went out and had another?
Okay, so we come down to Mrs. Beardsley and David Bates. We've had Alistair's view, I think, on David. Would you like to carry on with Mrs. Beardsley, Alan? Alistair, beg your pardon.
Most impressed. She stops and thinks before she answers, and when she answers, she gives very good answers. She had some of the hardest questions. I think this was fairly consciously put, particularly from Brown towards the end. I think he was very consciously putting some difficult questions, and she answered them very well, and there was hardly one that she didn't answer with a satisfactory point. She has the advantage of being a lady. I think that has got some value in a school. We rarely get, it is very depressing really, how often we get good lady candidates for head or deputy headship. But I think that she is one of the best ladies I've seen from this sort of level for quite a time.
It is not true, Alistair, that I've consciously put hard questions. I felt that her answers to Alan's questioning were textbook. And I felt it was important to penetrate what she actually meant by it, and frankly, I wasn't all that satisfied.
Yes, I had one or two tiny question marks over. I didn't feel as strongly inclined towards her as Alistair did. She thought very carefully and considered replies, and it's pretty clear that she's read around things well and has a good recall of some things. I just did wonder whether, in fact, she was saying some of the things because those were the things she was expecting. How shall I put it? Sorry, that she was expecting. We were expecting that reply from her. She had. I felt she had a good mind, actually.
Does it matter which of those two is the case, though? I mean, if she's perceptive and she sees, you know, what is required of her, or she really believes it, in either case, if she's prepared to put them into action.
In my case, she's a hypocrite.
Yeah.
I'd like to tackle your objection to Dave Bates, Alistair, in a bit more detail.
It's in the school context for the future. You've got three people who've come up through the school and who are built in the school philosophy with the present staff, and there will be, in the years to come, possibly a narrowness of view, a narrowness of experience.
If he was being interviewed in another school, I would have doubts that he'd have got through to the final four. And he didn't really say anything of great significance this afternoon, which made him stand out.
Did you not? I
don't think
he was
so.
the only one who had any kind of breadth of vision, I thought, in that he said, you know, it's got to be about the community and so on.
Well,
I think Mrs. Beardsley said.
Yeah, he was very narrow on the curriculum, in fact. We never really got to grips with that.
Except that he has, in fact, reformed the 1 Year 6 curriculum.
I mean, I share all Alistair's anxieties about David Bates. I mean, he'll do a thorough job, and there's no doubt about that. He's a competent man. But I think he'll be here for the rest of time, and I do doubt whether he will provide any input over and above what's going in what's going into your senior team at the moment. It's a comfortable option.
I wish I could communicate to you my anxiety about the possibility of the atmosphere which you've been so polite about being disturbed by making a wrong judgment at this moment in time.
I think I have more confidence in you that the system you've set up is going to survive, whether David's
I
here or
didn't
not.
set it up. I didn't set it up, Alistair. It was here when I came.
That has developed
and what I've
in the
done is
school.
nothing.
No, I like David Bates, actually. I think he's a nice chap. I think he's done a lot for the school. He has a very strong sense of loyalty to the school. And I would hope that that would continue, regardless of whether he was made deputy head or not. And I think it probably would. I don't really think, though, that he is the right person for the deputy headship. And I think that of Mrs. Beardsley and Mr. Bates, that Mrs. Beardsley will probably best fit into that situation.
I think that if it is the combined wisdom of everybody else that, for whatever reason, David Bates won't do, I'd almost rather re-advertise, I think, than the point of escaping.
Do you feel as strongly as that?
I think so, yeah. I felt she was a poseur, frankly. I suspect the depth of the views she put forward, especially about the curriculum and the aims of the school and so on, I would have doubts as to whether she is a genuine Kingswood person.
Yeah, I share some of the reservations Brian's made there about Mrs. Beardsley. I think I'd have one or two doubts about her coming here and about her fitting in with the senior team and indeed with the staff. She might be better placed in a more formal, more traditional school. I don't think I'd want to appoint if I was Brian, actually.
(7 p.m). 6 hours after the final interviews began, a decision is emerging.
I wonder what the stress factor on this is.
That's what that thing going on.
Didn't they really tell you?
I don't have any overriding objection to Mr. Bates. He's a safe bet. I'm not sure that's the right thing to do.
Yes, I think I've got to go for David.
The chairman of the governors and the head would like David Bates. Are we happy, Alan? Are we happy?
Are you quite happy?
Well, we've made our views known.
Yes.
And, I mean, given what we've said, you've chosen not to ignore them exactly, but you've taken them into account and come to a different decision, and we accept that and we'll support it, naturally.
The others rule themselves out.
David, after long discussion and so will Surgeon, panel are prepared to offer you the position of third deputy head.
Thank you.
Would you accept?
With gratitude, yes, thank you very much.
My congratulations.
Thank you very much indeed. Congratulations, Dave. Thank you.
Congratulations, David.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Well done.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Dave. You'll be very happy, I'm sure.
Been a long couple of days, aren't they?
It has been a very long couple of days.
You staying here with us.
Fred Shepherd is now a deputy in another Northamptonshire school. Margaret Beardsley and Maureen Pinner have yet to find new appointments.
Well done. We're going to chat just to the others before we go, and then we'll
say chair before.
Right, goodbye.
It's been a busy afternoon.
Right.
Pleasure meeting you, Arthur. We will in the future, no
I
doubt.
was going to come back in, but...
Sit down, David. I think you said a
Well,
problem,
we
have
wouldn't meet again, no doubt.
Bye, Alan. Good seeing you again.
Yes, OK, John.
Right,
Yes.
is
I
the
just
shutter
have to
here?
come back and collect my...
I don't know where...
I
No.
saw it outside before.
I don't know where it is, but we'll get that organised and sorted out.
Feel okay now?
I'm not sure, really, to be honest. I'm really not. It's been a very long... Well, the whole thing with... one thing or another, it's been a very long exercise.